Mr. Davies, your disguise is quite convincing, but I know exactly who you are. The real janitor is in the break room.
Vincent Harlow stood outside the Grandview Hotel in downtown Boston, staring at the building he owned, but barely recognized anymore. The five-star establishment his father built had been declining for months. Online reviews told stories of rude staff, ignored complaints, and management that seemed invisible. His current manager, Trevor Mitchell, insisted everything was running smoothly. The numbers said otherwise. Vincent had made his fortune by trusting his instincts. And right now, those instincts screamed that something was very wrong. So he made an unusual decision. He would go undercover as a maintenance worker to see the truth for himself, now dressed in simple work clothes, with a tool belt around his waist. Vincent pushed through the employee entrance. His reflection in the glass door showed a man nobody would recognize as the billionaire owner of a hotel chain. Perfect, the maintenance supervisor. An older man named George barely glanced at him during the brief introduction. "You're the new guy. Vince, right? Good. We need extra hands. Start with checking the heating units on floors 3 and 4. Report any issues." Vincent nodded and grabbed his work order sheet. As he made his way through the service corridors, he observed everything. Peeling paint in the employee areas, outdated equipment, staff members who looked exhausted and underpaid. His heart sank with each detail. When he emerged into the main lobby, the contrast was striking. The guest areas maintained their elegant appearance, but Vincent could see the cracks beneath the surface. Literally. The marble floor near the entrance had a chip that had been there for weeks, according to the date on his mental. Notes from security footage. Behind the front desk stood a young woman with dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. She was helping an elderly couple check in, her smile genuine and warm. Vincent moved closer, pretending to inspect a nearby heating vent while listening to the conversation. "Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, welcome back," the receptionist said. "I see this is your third stay with us this year. We're honored to have such loyal guests." The elderly woman beamed. "Julia, dear, we always request you specifically. You make us feel like family." Julia Bennett. Vincent made a mental note of the name. This was the kind of employee who made a hotel special. She handed them their room keys, along with a handwritten note. "I took the liberty of having your favorite tea selection sent to your room. The chamomile you mentioned last time." After the couple left, Julia's smile faded slightly. She rubbed her temples and returned to her computer, typing rapidly. Vincent noticed the dark circles under her eyes. How long had she been working today? "Julia," a sharp voice cut through the lobby. A man in an expensive suit strode toward the desk. Trevor Mitchell. Vincent recognized his manager immediately. "Why are their maintenance requests still pending from yesterday? This is unacceptable." Julia looked up calmly. "Trevor, I submitted those requests to your office yesterday morning. I followed up twice. The delay is not on my end." Trevor's face reddened. "Are you suggesting this is my fault? I am the manager of this hotel. I'm suggesting the requests went to your office, and I have the email timestamps to prove it." Julia's voice remained steady, professional. "If you would like me to resend them, I'm happy to do so." Vincent watched the exchange with growing interest. Julia was not backing down, but she was not being disrespectful either. She was simply stating facts. A guest approached the desk, interrupting the confrontation. Trevor shot Julia a warning glare before walking away. Julia immediately transformed, greeting the new arrival with a warm smile that showed no trace of the previous tension. Vincent spent the next hour moving through the lobby, observing Julia handle one situation after another. A family whose room was not ready received complimentary lunch vouchers and access to the spa. A business traveler with a forgotten phone charger got one delivered to his room within minutes. A confused tourist received detailed directions and restaurant recommendations, all written down clearly. Every interaction showcased the same pattern. Julia anticipated needs, solved problems, and made people feel valued. She was single-handedly maintaining the hotel's reputation, while management seemed determined to tear it down. Around noon, Trevor reappeared. This time he noticed Vincent working near the front desk. "You there?" "Maintenance guy." "What are you doing standing around? This floor does not clean itself." Before Vincent could respond, Julia intervened. "Trevor, he's checking the heating system. It's on his work order. Perhaps you should review the maintenance schedule before criticizing the staff." Trevor turned on her. "Miss Bennett, I have had enough of your attitude. You may think you run this hotel, but let me remind you who actually makes the decisions here. Then perhaps you should start making better ones," Julia said quietly. "Like responding to maintenance requests, or treating employees with basic respect, or actually being present when guests need management assistance instead of hiding in your office." The lobby had gone silent. Other staff members watched nervously. Vincent held his breath. Trevor stepped closer to the desk, his voice low and threatening. "You are walking a very thin line, Julia. I suggest you remember who signs your paycheck." Julia met his gaze without flinching. "I remember who actually earns that paycheck. Do you?" Trevor opened his mouth to respond, but a guest interrupted, asking about dinner reservations. Trevor shot Julia one final glare before stalking away. Julia helped the guest as if nothing had happened, though Vincent noticed her hands trembling slightly as she typed. When the guest left, Julia took a deep breath and closed her eyes for a moment. Vincent approached the desk, maintaining his maintenance worker disguise. "Excuse me, miss. Where should I submit my completed work orders?" Julia opened her eyes and smiled at him. Despite everything, her kindness remained intact. "Oh, just leave them with George in the maintenance office. And thank you for actually doing your job. It's refreshing around here," Vincent smiled back. "You handled that situation with your manager really well." Julia laughed softly. "Handled it? I probably just got myself fired. But honestly, someone needs to stand up to him. This hotel deserves better. The guests deserve better. The staff definitely deserves better. Why do you stay?" Vincent asked, genuinely curious. Julia looked around the lobby, her expression softening. "Because I love this place. I love making guests happy. I love solving problems and creating memorable experiences. I just wish the people running it felt the same way." Vincent nodded slowly, his respect for this woman growing by the minute. "I hope things change." "Me too," Julia said. "Me too." As Vincent walked away, he knew his investigation had already revealed what he needed to know. The problem was not the hotel. The problem was not the staff. The problem was Trevor Mitchell. And Vincent was going to fix it. The afternoon sun streamed through the tall windows of the Grandview Hotel lobby, casting golden patterns across the polished floor. Vincent continued his maintenance rounds, but his real focus remained on observing the daily operations. Every hour revealed more evidence of Julia's dedication and Trevor's incompetence. Around 2 o'clock, an elderly couple entered the lobby carrying shopping bags and looking tired. Vincent recognized them immediately from the photos Julia kept pinned to her desk board. The Hendersons. They had been staying at the hotel for the past week while visiting their daughter, who lived nearby. Julia spotted them and immediately came around from behind the desk. "Mr. and Mrs. Henderson, you look exhausted. Did you enjoy the museum?" Mrs. Henderson smiled wearily. "We did, dear, but my feet are killing me. We walked more than we planned. Come sit down." Julia guided them to the comfortable chairs near the fireplace. "Let me get you some water, and I will have your room refreshed early. You need rest." Vincent watched as Julia hurried to the back office, returning moments later with cold water bottles and a small plate of cookies. She knelt beside Mrs. Henderson and spoke quietly with both of them before helping them to the elevator. When Julia returned to the front desk, Trevor was waiting for her. His arms were crossed and his expression was stormy. "Julia, I need to speak with you about your behavior this morning," Trevor began. "Your insubordination in front of guests was completely inappropriate." Julia straightened her shoulders. "Trevor, I was doing my job. Guests were waiting for responses to their maintenance requests. I provided factual information about where those requests went." "You embarrass me," Trevor hissed. "In my own hotel," "This is not your hotel," Julia said calmly. "You manage it. There is a difference. And when your management creates problems for guests and staff, someone needs to address it." Trevor's face turned red. "I am warning you, Julia. One more incident, and you will be looking for a new job. I do not care how long you have worked here or how much the guests like you. I am in charge." Before Julia could respond, a loud crash echoed from the event hall. Both of them turned as a member of the catering staff rushed out, looking panicked. "Miss Bennett, we have a problem. The event tonight. The flowers never arrived, and the client is arriving in 2 hours for setup inspection." Trevor threw up his hands. "This is not my problem. Events should have confirmed the delivery. Now we look incompetent." Julia was already moving toward the office. "What was ordered?" 300 white roses and greenery arrangements for the anniversary party, the staff member said, following her. "The florist is not answering their phone." Vincent edged closer, curious how this would unfold. Trevor stood in the lobby, arms crossed. Making no move to help solve the problem, Julia emerged from the office with her phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, hello? This is Julia Bennett from the Grandview Hotel. I need to speak with your manager about an urgent order." She paused, listening. "I understand you are busy, but we have a client arriving in 2 hours expecting flowers for a party tonight. Your company confirmed delivery yesterday." Vincent watched her face cycle through frustration and determination. Finally, she hung up and turned to the waiting staff member. "They claim they never received our order, which is impossible because I have the confirmation email. But arguing will not get us flowers. Call every florist within 10 miles. Find out who has white roses available for immediate pickup. I will approve the expense and we will make this work." "But Trevor said," the staff member began. "I will handle Trevor," Julia said firmly. "Get those flowers." "Go now." The staff member rushed away. Julia returned to her desk and began making calls. Vincent moved closer, still pretending to work on a nearby vent. "Garden Rose Shop. Yes, this is Julia from the Grandview Hotel. I need 300 white roses with greenery. Today, as soon as possible." She listened, her expression brightening. "You can do 200. Perfect. I will take them. Can you deliver within the hour? You are a lifesaver." She made 4 more calls, piecing together the order from multiple vendors. Trevor reappeared from wherever he had been hiding. "Julia, what are you doing? We cannot afford unplanned expenses like this. Cannot afford to disappoint a client who paid $15,000 for an anniversary party." Julia countered without looking up from her phone. "This is called problem solving, Trevor. You should try it sometime." Trevor's jaw clenched. "I am writing you up for insubordination." "Write whatever you want," Julia said, finalizing another order. "Right now, I have a party to save." For the next 90 minutes, Vincent watched Julia orchestrate a miracle. Flowers arrived from 5 different vendors. She coordinated with the event staff to arrange them beautifully. When the anniversary couple arrived for their inspection, the room looked perfect. Vincent followed at a distance as Julia gave them a tour of the setup. The wife had tears in her eyes. "This is more beautiful than I imagined," she whispered. "Julia, you have outdone yourself." Julia hugged the woman warmly. "You deserve a perfect celebration. 50 years of marriage is extraordinary." After the couple left, Julia returned to the lobby and practically collapsed into her desk chair. Vincent could see the exhaustion on her face, but also the satisfaction. She had solved an impossible problem through sheer determination and creativity. He approached the desk with a bottle of water from the break room. "You look like you need this." Julia glanced up, surprised. "Vince, right. The new maintenance guy?" "Right. I saw what you did just now." "That was impressive." Julia accepted the water gratefully. "Just doing my job. Hotels run on solving problems. The guests should never know when things go wrong behind the scenes." "Does Trevor know you spent your own money on some of those flowers?" Vincent asked quietly. Julia's eyes widened. "How did you know that?" "I heard you on the phone. One of the vendors would not take a hotel credit card on short notice. You used your personal card." Julia shrugged. "I will submit the expense report. Trevor might deny it out of spite, but that is a problem for tomorrow. Today, I made sure a couple celebrating 50 years together got the party they deserved." Vincent felt something shift in his chest. This woman was not just an excellent employee. She was someone who genuinely cared about making other people happy, even at personal cost. "Can I ask you something?" Vincent said. "Why do you work so hard for a place that does not appreciate you?" Julia was quiet for a moment, her fingers tracing patterns on the desk. "My grandmother worked in hospitality her whole life. She taught me that making people feel welcome and cared for is one of the most important jobs in the world. Everyone deserves to feel special, even if just for a moment." She smiled. "This hotel used to be the kind of place where magic happened, where proposals occurred in the restaurant and families made memories. I wanted to be that place again." "What changed?" Vincent asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. "Management changed. The owner is some billionaire who probably does not even remember he owns this place. He hired Trevor 2 years ago and everything went downhill. Trevor cares about numbers and reports, not people. He does not understand that hospitality is about heart." Vincent absorbed her words, each one landing like a punch. She was right. He had been so focused on expanding his hotel empire that he had lost sight of what made each property special. He had hired managers based on their resumes, not their character. A commotion at the entrance interrupted his thoughts. A man in an expensive suit strode into the lobby, speaking loudly into his phone. He was followed by 2 assistants carrying designer luggage. "I do not care what the other hotel said," the man barked into his phone. "I want the presidential suite, and I want it now. Money is not an issue." Julia straightened in her chair, her professional mask sliding back into place. "Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the Grandview Hotel. How may I assist you?" The man barely glanced at her. "Richard Pemberton. I need your best suite immediately." My assistant called ahead. Julia checked her computer. "Mr. Pemberton, I see your reservation is for tomorrow night. We have you confirmed in a deluxe suite tomorrow." "No, I need it tonight. Presidential suite. Make it happen." "I apologize, sir, but the presidential suite is occupied tonight. I can offer you our executive suite, which is quite spacious." "And did you hear me say executive suite?" Richard's voice rose. "I said presidential. Remove whoever is in there and give it to me." "Do you know who I am?" Julia remained calm. "Mr. Pemberton, I cannot displace current guests from their reserved accommodations. However, the executive suite offers many of the same amenities, and this is unacceptable." Richard slammed his hand on the desk. "Get me your manager now." Julia picked up the phone, and moments later Trevor appeared. Vincent watched the scene unfold with growing anger. "Mr. Pemberton?" Trevor's voice dripped with false charm. "I am so sorry for this inconvenience." "Of course we can accommodate you, Trevor. The presidential suite is occupied," Julia said firmly. Trevor ignored her. "Mr. Pemberton, if you will give us 1 hour, we will have the presidential suite ready for you." "You are going to kick out the guests who reserved it?" Julia stood up. "Trevor, that is completely unethical. The Martins have had that reservation for 3 months. It is their anniversary trip." "Julia, let me handle this," Trevor said through gritted teeth. "I will not let you ruin someone's anniversary because—" "Enough," Trevor shouted. "Mr. Pemberton is a Platinum Rewards member. His business is valuable. Now, go inform the Martins they are being upgraded to a different property with our compliments." Julia stared at Trevor in disbelief. "You are serious? You are actually going to displace guests who did nothing wrong?" "I am making a business decision," Trevor said coldly. "Something you clearly do not understand. Now do as I say, or clear out your desk." Vincent had heard enough. His hands clenched into fists. He took a step forward, ready to blow his cover and fire Trevor on the spot. But Julia spoke first, her voice trembling with suppressed emotion. "No." The single word hung in the air. Trevor's eyes narrowed. "What did you just say?" "I said no. I will not do this. It is wrong, and you know it." Richard Pemberton smirked. "Your employee needs an attitude adjustment, manager. She needs unemployment," Trevor spat. "Julia Bennett, you are suspended without pay effective immediately. Leave the premises now." Julia's face went pale, but she held her head high. She removed her name badge and placed it on the desk. "I hope you can live with yourself, Trevor. Both of you. She grabbed her purse from under the desk and walked toward the exit. As she passed Vincent, their eyes met for just a moment. He saw the pain there, but also the dignity. She had stood up for what was right, knowing it would cost her everything. The lobby doors closed behind her, and Vincent made a decision. The investigation was over. Tomorrow morning, everything would change. Vincent stood in the lobby, watching Julia disappear through the front doors. His blood boiled with a fury he had not felt in years. Every instinct screamed at him to chase after her, to reveal his identity right then, and expose Trevor's corruption. But he forced himself to wait. This needed to be handled properly. With witnesses and documentation, he pulled out his phone and stepped into a quiet corner, quickly typing a message to his corporate lawyer. Emergency meeting. Grandview Hotel, Boston. Tomorrow morning at 8. Bring termination papers and full management review documentation. Richard Pemberton was still at the front desk, looking pleased with himself. Trevor hovered nearby, practically bowing as he arranged the room transfer. Vincent felt sick watching the performance. Pemberton, your suite will be ready within the hour, Trevor said smoothly. Can I offer you a complimentary drink at our bar while you wait? Finally, some proper service, Richard said, straightening his expensive tie. That woman had no idea how to treat important guests. You did the right thing firing her. Suspended, Trevor corrected quickly. But yes, she was becoming a problem. Too emotional. Not professional enough for an establishment like this. Vincent turned away before he said something that would blow his cover. He spent the rest of the afternoon gathering evidence. He photographed the neglected maintenance issues. He interviewed staff members who opened up once they realized he was actually listening. He reviewed complaint logs that Trevor had been hiding from corporate reports. The picture became painfully clear. Trevor had been systematically cutting corners to boost short-term profit numbers while destroying the hotel's reputation. He ignored maintenance needs, understaffed departments, and drove away talented employees with his toxic management style. Meanwhile, Julia had been working overtime without compensation, using her own money to solve problems, and single-handedly maintaining guest satisfaction scores as evening approached. Vincent changed out of his maintenance uniform in the staff locker room. He pulled on his regular clothes, a simple but well-made shirt and jeans that still did not reveal his wealth. George, the maintenance supervisor, nodded goodbye as Vincent left. See you tomorrow, Vince. Actually, George, tomorrow might look very different around here, Vincent said carefully. Be ready for some changes. George raised an eyebrow but did not ask questions. Long as the changes are good ones, I am ready. Vincent left through the employee entrance and walked 3 blocks to where his driver waited with the car. Take me to Oak Street, number 247. The building Julia lived in was modest but maintained with care. Window boxes held autumn flowers. The entrance was clean despite the building's age. Vincent climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor and stood outside apartment 3B, his heart pounding harder than it had during any business negotiation. He knocked firmly. Footsteps approached. The door opened to reveal Julia, now wearing comfortable clothes with her hair down. Her eyes were red from crying, but she quickly tried to compose herself when she saw him. Vince, what are you doing here? How did you even know where I live? Can I come in? I need to explain something important. Julia hesitated, then stepped aside. I suppose it does not matter anymore. I do not work at the hotel now anyway. The apartment was small, but filled with warmth. Books lined the shelves. Photos covered the walls, most showing Julia with elderly guests from the hotel. The Henderson couple featured prominently, along with the Pattersons and dozens of others. This was not just a job to her. These people were her extended family. Would you like some tea? Julia asked, moving toward the kitchen. I was just making some... Julia, please sit down. What I have to say cannot wait. She sat on the worn couch, looking at him with confusion and wariness. Vincent took a deep breath and pulled out his wallet, removing his real identification card and business card. He handed them to her. Julia stared at the cards. Her face went through several expressions: confusion, disbelief, shock, and finally something close to anger. Vincent Harlow, owner and CEO of Harlow Hotel Group? She read aloud, her voice hollow. You own the Grandview. I own 15 hotels, including the Grandview. And for the past 2 days, I have been working undercover as a maintenance worker to discover why my Boston property was failing. Julia stood up abruptly. You lied to me. You let me complain about the owner, about management, about everything. You just stood there and listened while I made a fool of myself. You did not make a fool of yourself, Vincent said firmly. You told me the truth. That is exactly what I needed to hear. Nobody tells the truth to the boss, Julia. They tell him what he wants to hear. But you were honest with Vince, the maintenance guy? And now what? You came here to fire me yourself? To gloat? Tears welled in her eyes. I stood up for what was right and lost my job. I cannot pay my rent. I have student loans. My grandmother's in a nursing home, and I help with her expenses. But at least I can sleep at night knowing I did the right thing. Vincent felt each word like a physical blow. This incredible woman had sacrificed everything for principles while he had been too busy expanding his empire to notice the rot in his own properties. Julia, I am not here to fire you. I am here to offer you a job, she laughed bitterly. Doing what? Cleaning rooms? I think I am done working for Harlow Hotel Group, thanks. I want you to be the general manager of the Grandview Hotel. The words hung in the air. Julia stared at him, as if he had spoken a foreign language. Trevor Mitchell is being terminated tomorrow morning. I need someone who actually understands hospitality to run that property. Someone who cares about guests and staff. Someone with integrity. Vincent stepped closer. I have spent 2 days watching you perform miracles with no support and minimal resources. You turned angry guests into happy ones. You solved impossible problems. You stood up for what was right, even when it cost you everything. That is the kind of person I need running my hotels. Cannot be serious, Julia whispered. I am a receptionist. I have never managed anything bigger than a front desk. You have been managing that entire hotel, Vincent said. Trevor just had the title. You had the respect, the knowledge, the relationships. Every employee I spoke to today mentioned your name. You are the heart of that place. Julia sat down slowly, her hands shaking. This is insane. Yesterday I was a receptionist. Today I got suspended. Now you are offering me Trevor's job? I am offering you a chance to make the Grandview what you know it can be. Full authority over operations, staffing, and budget decisions. A salary 3 times what you were making. And a promise that I will actually listen when you tell me what needs to change. Why? Julia looked up at him with those honest eyes. Why would you trust me with something this big? Vincent sat down beside her, careful to maintain a respectful distance. Because in 2 days you taught me what I had forgotten about this business. Hotels are not about profit margins and occupancy rates. They are about people. You understand that in a way I lost sight of somewhere along the way. What about Trevor? Trevor will be escorted out by security tomorrow morning. His termination is already being processed. Richard Pemberton will also be checking out, permanently banned from all Harlow properties. You are banning a Platinum Rewards member? Julia looked shocked. I am banning a bully who thinks money gives him the right to mistreat staff and displace guests. That is not the kind of business I want. Vincent met her eyes. I built this company on the foundation my father laid. He believed hotels should be places where people felt safe, welcomed, and cared for. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that. I hired managers who looked good on paper but did not have heart. I focused on expansion instead of excellence. You reminded me what matters. Julia was quiet for a long moment, processing everything. If I say yes, I want real authority. No interference from corporate unless absolutely necessary. I need to rebuild the staff morale, update maintenance, and implement proper training programs. Done. I want a budget for employee appreciation programs. The staff works hard. They deserve recognition. Approved. And I want it in writing that guests will never be displaced from confirmed. Reservations to accommodate someone willing to pay more. That is not who we are. Vincent smiled. I will have that added to company policy across all properties. Anything else? Julia stood up and walked to her window, looking out at the city lights. This morning I woke up as a receptionist who loved her job. This afternoon, I got suspended for doing the right thing. Tonight, a billionaire is in my apartment offering me my dream job. This feels like something from a movie. Life surprises us sometimes, Vincent said softly. The question is whether you are willing to take the chance. She turned to face him, and he saw the determination returning to her expression. When do I start? Tomorrow morning. 8 o'clock. My lawyer will be there with all the paperwork. Trevor will be gone by 8:30. The staff will need to hear from their new manager. Julia took a deep breath and extended her hand. Then I accept, Mr. Harlow. Thank you for this opportunity.
Oh.
Vincent shook her hand, feeling the strength in her grip. Thank you for reminding me what kind of company I want to build. And please, call me Vincent. We are going to be working closely together. Vincent, she tested the name. I have one condition I forgot to mention. What is it? The Martins. The couple Trevor was going to displace. I want to personally call them tonight to confirm their presidential suite is waiting for them exactly as reserved. With a complimentary champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries, Vincent laughed, the sound genuine and warm. Consider it done. I will call the night manager myself to ensure everything is arranged. As he prepared to leave, Julia walked him to the door. Vincent, can I ask you something? Of course. When you were pretending to be a maintenance worker, did you ever regret the disguise? Did you want to just reveal who you were and fix everything immediately? Vincent thought about the question carefully. Many times, especially today when Trevor suspended you. But if I had revealed myself earlier, I would not have seen the truth. I would not have understood how badly I had failed my own values. Sometimes we need to see things from a different perspective to recognize what needs to change. Julia nodded slowly. I think I understand. And for what it is worth, even though you lied about who you were, everything you observed was real. The problems are real. The staff frustrations are real. My dedication is real. Vincent said, That is exactly why you are the right person for this job. Get some rest, Julia. Tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day. After he left, Julia stood in her apartment, still holding his business card. She looked around at her modest home, at the photos of guests who had become friends, at the life she had built through hard work and kindness. Tomorrow, she would walk into the Grandview Hotel not as a receptionist, but as the general manager. She would have the authority to fix everything that had been broken. She would finally be able to create the kind of place her grandmother had taught her hotels should be, and somewhere in the back of her mind, she realized that Vincent Harlow was not at all what she expected from a billionaire. He had listened. He had learned. He had admitted his mistakes. That took a kind of courage most people in his position never developed. She went to bed that night with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. Her life had changed completely in a single day. Tomorrow morning, she would prove that she deserved this chance. She would show Vincent that his faith in her was not misplaced. The Grandview Hotel was about to become something special again. And this time, it would be built on a foundation of respect, integrity, and genuine care for every person who walked through its doors. Tomorrow could not come soon enough. The end.